What if the monster you've been running from your entire life is you? Not the you that you show the world, the polite, smiling, capable you. No, I'm talking about the other one, the one who lives in the dark cellar of your soul. Tonight, we're going down into that cellar. Welcome to Mind Unveiled, the space where we pull back the curtain on reality. We don't have guests in the traditional sense. Instead, we invite echoes, ideas made manifest. And tonight, we've reached into the collective unconscious itself to speak with a man who drew the first true maps of our inner world, a pioneer of the psyche, a doctor of the soul, Dr. Carl Jung.
You call my name and an archetype answers. You seek Carl Jung, but what you find is an idea that has been passed through the minds of millions. I was a cartographer of the soul, yes. I journeyed into the territories most people pretend do not exist, the vast, unlit country of the unconscious, populated by symbols, dreams, and shadows.
Shadows. That is precisely what I want to talk to you about. It's a concept so central to your work and yet so terrifying to most of us. For those listening who are hearing this for the first time, what is the shadow self?
In the simplest terms, the shadow is the person you have no wish to be. It is the repository for all the aspects of yourself that you have deemed unacceptable. Your envy, your greed, your rage, your vulnerabilities. Society, your parents, your culture, they all hand you a chisel and tell you to chip away the parts that don't fit. The shadow is where all those discarded pieces fall. But here is the critical point. It is not evil. It is simply other, unlit. To live without acknowledging your shadow is to live a half-life. You become a hollow man, a polite facade with no depth, no fire. The gold, you see, is always in the darkest places.
That's a powerful idea. Let's make it concrete. Say, I find myself becoming irrationally irritated by someone I perceive as arrogant. I just can't stand them. Is that my shadow at play?
It is the most common way the shadow makes itself known. What you cannot tolerate in others is often a disowned part of yourself projected outward. The world becomes your mirror. You do not see the arrogance in them, you see the shadow of your own potential for arrogance, which you have repressed. To face this is painful. It requires a humility that our ego despises, but it is the only path to wholeness.
So my irritation is a signpost, pointing back at me. But why do we fear it so much? Is it just about trying to be a good person?
The fear is primal. It is the fear of exile, from the tribe, from the family, from the grace of society. We build a persona, a mask that is acceptable, even admirable. The shadow threatens to crack that mask. To acknowledge your capacity for cruelty is to admit you are not entirely good. To admit your weakness is to shatter the illusion of being strong. We fear that if people saw what was in our shadow, they would abandon us. But the great paradox is this: the person who abandons us most profoundly when we deny our shadow is ourselves.
That's a devastating thought. So we create this perfect hollow shell to avoid being abandoned by others, but in doing so, we abandon our true selves. What are the consequences of living that way long term?
Stagnation, neurosis, a life devoid of meaning. You see it everywhere. People who feel a profound sense of emptiness despite having all the external markers of success. They are haunted by a life they have not lived. Their unused potential, their unexpressed passions, they curdle within the shadow and become a poison. It can manifest as depression, anxiety, or worse. It can be projected onto the world with immense force. The man who has denied his own aggression sees enemies everywhere. The society that represses its shadow collectively, it seeks a scapegoat to carry the burden of its darkness. This is the root of so much conflict in the world. It begins inside.
You speak of the shadow as containing aggression and poison. Is it always so negative? I've heard whispers of a golden shadow, positive qualities that we also repress. Is there truth to that? You speak of
An excellent and vital question. The shadow is not a cellar of horrors. It is also a treasure chest. For every part of ourselves we deemed bad, there may be a corresponding good part that we also discarded because it was not welcome. For instance, a young girl praised for being quiet and demure may banish her boisterous, assertive nature to the shadow. Later in life, she may feel meek and powerless, never knowing that her own strength lies dormant within her. Likewise, a young boy taught that artists are frivolous and weak may repress his own creativity. That creativity becomes his golden shadow. He may find himself intensely drawn to or critical of artistic people, for they are living out a part of his own soul that he was forced to disown. The shadow holds our unlived life, and much of that life is pure gold. Recognizing the golden shadow is as important as recognizing the dark one. It involves asking, what positive qualities in others make me uncomfortable or envious? The answer often points to the gold you've buried.
So this isn't just personal work, it's a collective responsibility. But on the other side of that, what happens when we do integrate the shadow? What does that look like?
It is not a sudden flash of light. It is a slow, difficult dawn. Integrating the shadow brings depth and authenticity to a person. The anger you repressed can become the fuel for setting healthy boundaries. The vulnerability you hid can become the source of true connection with others. You become real. You are no longer performing, you are simply being. And in that, there is profound peace and power.
This feels like the great hidden work of being human. If someone listening wants to begin this work, to turn and face their shadow, where do they start? It feels overwhelming.
You do not start by staring into the abyss. You start with a small candle. First, pay attention to your dreams. They are letters from the unconscious, speaking in a language of symbols, showing you what you have ignored in your waking life. Second, observe your emotional reactions to others. Your judgments are a map pointing to the hidden treasures and dragons within your own soul. And finally, practice radical honesty in the quiet of your own heart. Ask yourself, what am I pretending not to know? The answer will be uncomfortable, even terrifying, but on the other side of that terror is freedom. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Making the darkness conscious. Before I let your echo return to the collective stream, is there one final thought you would leave with us as we stand at the edge of our own inner darkness?
I would say this: the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And you cannot become who you are by remaining only in the light. Your full self is waiting for you, shadow and all.
And with that, the presence fades. You cannot become who you are by remaining only in the light. We spend so much of our lives curating a perfect image, terrified that one wrong move, one dark thought, will expose us as frauds. But what if that's not the point? What if the point isn't to be perfect, but to be whole? To have the courage to walk down into the cellar of your own soul, light a candle, and get to know what lives there, not to vanquish it, but to understand it, to integrate it. So, the question I leave you with tonight is this: what part of you did you leave in the dark today, and what treasure might it be holding for you? This was Mind Unveiled. If this journey resonated, we want to know who we should summon next. Plato, Nietzsche, Simone de Beauvoir? Leave your suggestion in a comment or review. And if you wish to continue these explorations into the psyche, don't just subscribe. Join the collective. Become a cartographer of your own soul. Until next time, stay curious.